Even though I've been here in the US for over 30 years, there are still a few things that I miss from my home country, Philippines. By the way, my name is Meng. In this channel, I talk about life as a Filipino, enjoying my journey as an American citizen here in the US with my American husband and our 3 young adult boys. Although my life has been full of challenges over the 31 years that I have been here, honestly, it has been wonderful for the most part. Before I came here, I remember how desperate I was to leave the Philippines and chase the American dream. For some reason, that time I felt that I didn't belong in my own country. Not to mention the fact that there were no opportunities there for most people. And I can't imagine life had I not taken the chance to come here. During my younger days, I have always been a dreamer and was always up for adventure. With that said, my friends and family were not surprised when I ended up here. However, I did not expect that I would meet the love of my life and settle here. It was destiny. And believe it or not, it was not until recently that I realized that everything I daydreamed of when I was young came true. I used to daydream that I would live my life here, have a career, earn money, and support my family back home, and become an American citizen. I remember I would even imagine myself driving a car. It's funny how life can be so busy that it took me years to realize that I manifested all of this. But there are pros and cons to living abroad. Wherever your home country is, there is a misconception that people who live abroad, especially here in the US, have a picture-perfect life, we don't have financial struggles, and living a luxurious life. For me, yes, life is better here in most aspects, but it doesn't mean I live in a perfect world and life is always easy. Aside from overcoming the challenges of adapting to the life here, we also still have bills to pay. In fact, more bills than when I was living back home. And number one with that is the tax. There's the property tax, high income tax, and then we have the home and car insurance, just to name a few. Few things that I used to not have when I was in the Philippines. In the Philippines, we can get by with public transportation. And the cost of living, the food, and all of that is so cheap. Here, the cost of living is definitely higher. But I understand that life back home can be hard financially since there are less opportunities there. But I believe that there are other things that they have that I wish I had now. Like a slow pace of life, less stress, more time with family and friends, social life, and more joy. I know that some of our family and friends back home don't understand that in spite of all these adventures and the life that we are experiencing here, we feel homesick. I feel homesick until now. We can't really blame them, especially if they haven't experienced living life abroad. If you're new here, I advise that you make new friends and keep that friendship last if you can, as these friends can be your family here someday, especially if you don't have anyone here. One of the things that people forget once they leave their own country is maintaining their friendships and relationships from home. Remember, they are still a part of you in your life, and no matter how established or successful your life abroad becomes, someday, somehow, you would still go home. But imagine how sad it would be if you didn't have anyone to visit to or catch up with, if you completely distanced yourself from them over the years. I believe, though, that there should be a good balance, that you have to be careful at how much time you're spending connecting from home, as it might interfere with your life here. You might get more homesick instead of moving forward. When I arrived here many years ago, I had to pay for long distance calls in order to talk to my parents and siblings. It was really expensive, so I would only call once a week. And then after around the year 2000 or something, the prepaid phone cards came around, but it was still also not cheap. But now things have changed, and thank goodness for social media and the internet. We can connect anywhere, anytime for free. We can use Viber, we can use WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or Skype. It's so convenient. We don't have any more excuses not to connect, right? Here I put together some of the things that I really missed from home. Number one is family. I came from a family of 4 girls and 1 boy. And I grew up very close to my cousins as well. I can say that I am an outgoing person, but I really struggled with homesickness here for years, especially before I had kids. After my kids were born, and since they kept me busy, things got a little better. It got better, though, that I almost forgot to go visit, and I regret that. Please don't make the same mistake. Try to visit as often as you can, especially if your parents are still there. They will not be here forever, and time flies so fast. Next, I miss family bonding and traditions. I really missed how we bond as family, as adults back home. We don't care if we live with our parents and siblings, even if we can afford it, to get a place of our own. It is not about proving we're independent. It's more about the love and care we have for our family, which is so different here in the US. I still have a hard time until now, after my oldest son left home at 18 for college and never came back to stay. Now that he is done with school and has his own apartment, he lives from another state but would only come home to visit. He stays for a week or 2, but for him, this is not his home anymore. Even though I tell him over and over that he is still welcome to stay in this house. Even though my husband is a good family man, I don't get support from him when it comes to this subject, because this is how he was raised as well. In fact, he left and had his own place with his brother when he was only 16 years old. Also back home, it is very common to see teenagers and young adults hanging out with their parents and their own siblings. We didn't care. We spent time with friends also, but we also had time with our own family. But here, I noticed that most of the time, kids would spend time with their parents only during special occasions or holidays, because they have their own social life separate from family, which I understand. Next, the food. The other thing that I really miss a lot is the food. Although nowadays there are a lot of Filipino stores and restaurants here, I don't know about you, but it's not the same. Food is really something that I get excited about every time I go home. Yes, I can cook, and that's because I had to learn since we didn't have much access here to Filipino food. And some of the ingredients are either not available or not as fresh here. But there is something about the smell of the Filipino kitchen. Another thing that I miss is having a sense of community. Here, it is not unusual for me not to see or talk to my neighbors for months. We're all busy, I get it. Our life, our jobs, and since it gets really cold in the winter, who wants to go outside and socialize, right? But back home, on the other hand, we can yell from our own window or talk to our neighbors anytime we want. You can easily borrow sugar or salt or anything if you just yell. Here, everything seems to require appointments. Sometimes, even with your own kids, you need to make an appointment. Next is the slow pace of life. Growing up in a small town, I remember spending afternoons or evenings with friends and cousins, whether they just came home from school or from work. But I remember spending hours sitting outside, hanging out by the seawall, or having fun, or jamming, or talking about our day. Also, we always had time to sit down and eat dinner as a family. Life seemed to be less stressful that way. Lastly, there is a tradition that I really miss. It's the respecting the elderly by the way we address them. We address them respectfully by using terms before their names. For example, for older sisters, we call them ate, and then for older brother, we call them kuya, and then followed by their names. This does not only apply to older siblings, but to anyone older or in some cases, someone with seniority. Well, this shows respect and is a tradition that I really hope will continue through the years. Please understand that I'm just sharing this, but if you ask me if I have regret for building a life here, absolutely not. Going through these challenges and overcoming them along with all the adventures, that's what makes life interesting. I would love to hear what you miss from your own country, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.